How has taking action as this podcaster helped you grow on the other side of things, like you've said, as a dance coach and as an educator, right? Because a lot of people go into those roles purely as dancers, choreographers, high stakes, high octane performers. So I'm interested to know how this part of your development has fed into that in a realistic, practical sense.
So much of the dance podcast I used as just personal education, right? Like, let's grab the experts in their domains. And I felt like I was student number one. I just got to ask all the questions I wanted and learn as much as I could. What's been really interesting about something like the dance podcast from a creative project and from taking action is it really helped build my identity around the type of person I am rather than what I do. And so when I look at how I took action, when the technology was basic, right? There weren't these apps where you could podcast. Zoom wasn't even popular yet. So some of the first podcasts were done on Skype. I'm the type of person who, when I want to do something, I do it. I am solution focused. I know that there's problems. I know that I don't know everything, and I'll ask and I'll figure it out. And that is something that, whether I'm putting on the hat of a podcaster, a dance educator, a mental performance consultant, that is who I am. I will figure it out. I've also recognized that by taking action, I know that I can ask, I can ask others if they would like to join. And also I've learned not to take it personally if they don't. My family doesn't ask for much. It's not a skill or something that I saw role modeled often. I think my father actually stands pretty firm in don't ask anyone for anything, and then you don't owe anyone for anything. We can get him on and talk about his childhood psychology, but the reality is that me asking people for their time, for help, for support, for promotion, that's really uncomfortable for me. And yet it gave me the opportunity to action it and to go for it. I had just done a presentation around 5 actions of growth. And it was an overly simplified analogy, but essentially the framework which I used was, first, you have to pick the seed that you want to grow. And for me, the podcast was that creative seed that I was like, that, at least for right now, that's the thing that I want to grow and try and play with. And so you got to pick the seed, but then you got to plant the seed. And that's when you dig in, you do your gritty work. The biggest thing around the podcast, around creativity, around anything in our lives is going to be consistency, right? So that's why in the first season of the podcast, I was like, every week, I'm going to do one every week, partly because at the time, that's what podcasting was, right? That was part of the recipe for success, was you have to do something every single week. And so I was like, I'm doing it. And I did it. I got to 52 and was like, woo! And then collapsed over because it was so full on. I hadn't yet embraced batch recording or, everything was so new. But you pick the seed, you plant the seed, you do the work, you find the consistency. And then the next thing is you have to nurture that and navigate all of the weather conditions that come. It's my responsibility to water the seed and to put it in sunlight if I want it to keep growing. It's a reality that the air condition might be too cold for that plant, and we gotta find creative solutions to the problems. And so that's when we're looking at navigating the highs and the lows, whether it's of a creative project, whether it is in a professional career, whether it's just life. the art of life is in the navigating. You know, John Kabat-Zinn's quote is, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And so the more you're able to develop self-awareness and get really clear on how you want to respond to your emotions, respond to somebody else online, respond to any kind of environment, that's going to be the magic of your growth. And it's a very action-oriented framework. It takes a lot of effort. It doesn't just happen naturally.